We'll go straight to it now. Weary Nigerian university teachers have called off their protracted strike action, which has kept their students at home for the better part of 10 months. Negotiations with the federal government team, led by the Minister of Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, had at times sounded like coming together of mortal enemies, with neither of the parties demonstrating any real commitment to finding a resolution. Of course, certain unplanned interventions like the recent NSAS protest had caught both sides flat-footed, especially the government, and in the opinion of many analysts, the movement has served as a major catalyst to the partial resolution of the industrial conflict. How are the university teachers feeling at the moment? What about the students and their parents and guardians? Well, joining us now to look at everything about what has happened and what might happen next is Dele Ashiru of the Department of Political Science, Department of University of Lagos. He's also a UNILAG chairman, Academic Staff Union of Nigeria Universities. Welcome to the program. Let's just go straight to it. We've called it this morning, a Pyrrhic victory here because a lot of people lost. And when you look at the losses incurred, academic sessions rendered useless and the likes on the part of people, students don't know where their future will be like. Then ASUU finally reaching a deal. A lot of people will say, yeah, the victory you think you have outweighs the losses that were made. But also there's another big elephant in the room. The elephant in the room now is SANU, ASUU, and other associations that are saying this money that will probably be paid, some part of it in February, that ASUU will be getting, they can't dominate the sharing formula because they had even reached a deal with the federal government prior to this time about this certain sum before ASUU held a strike and all of this went on. So SANU is kicking big deal against this deal you have and say the sharing formula can't go 75% to ASUU and the likes. What is really happening between ASUU and other organizations now in the university body?
Well, thank you very much for this invitation. I think the way to start is not to reduce the entire struggle of our union to the relationship between unions on campus. Bear in mind that every workers' union reserves the right to engage the employer on matters of welfare, matters of interest to their respective members. And that's what ASUU is doing. We went on strike to compel government to fulfill an agreement which it reached with our union several years back, particularly the memorandum of action we signed with government in 2019. Between 27 February 2019 and 23rd March 2020, when we commenced this strike, government was in breach in terms of implementation. Now we have another agreement which took this very long struggle to get. I think that we should concentrate more on getting government to prevent strikes by academic staff in universities than the relationship with unions. Having said that, you recall that one of the reasons why we embarked on this strike was to get government to pay arrears of end academic allowances, which has been verified and also gone through a forensic audit by government. The basis of releasing any money for end academic allowances is on the basis of the computation made by ASUU. I challenge other unions on campus to produce a computation of their own allowances. So the money that government is giving, let's bear in mind that it's not a gift and it's not for philanthropy. It's not just dashing money, to a group of people. It is based on a verifiable claim of allowances that have accumulated over the years. And ASUU went into negotiation with government to get government to pay. Now that government promised to pay, should any other group in the university system feels that they have allowances that have accumulated and they want government to pay, what I think is appropriate is for those unions to approach government like ASUU did and struggle like ASUU did to get their own payment and not to lash on, a promissory note that is even yet to materialize. And then we begin to make that an issue after this long strike?
Well, Dr. Ashiru, ASUU's expectations are very clear. They're very clearly outlined in the press statement that was issued by ASUU President, Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi, and the negotiator for the federal government, Dr. Chris Ngige, says he will not give ASUU cause to go on strike again. And I hope, the best way to interpret that is that the agreements reached on Tuesday, including ASUU's demand that there should be immediate payment by January of the end academic allowances, will be something that Dr. Ngige and the federal government will make sure happens. But do you believe, Dr. Ngige? Do you believe that the federal government will not renege on any of the agreements? Let me phrase it like that.
I hope that they will not. The question of belief is very doubtful, because Ngige, as Minister of Labor and Employment in Nigeria, had presided over two similar agreements with our union, which they didn't faithfully implement. So if you ask me whether I believe, I do not. But if you ask about hope, I hope that Ngige will live up to ensuring that the agreements are implemented this time around.
Well, as a lecturer, part of the agreement is that classes will then resume. The strike has officially been called off today, and that virtual teaching will commence. I mean, as a lecturer in a public university such as the University of Lagos, what does virtual learning mean for you? What exactly is that? How will that play out? And talking about the students, which nobody seems to really prioritize whenever these negotiations are done, are there plans to revamp the curriculum for them, as they've lost 9 months, whilst their counterparts in the private universities had education continue?
Well, this is a question that I'd like to respond to in this manner. One of the reasons why ASUU is engaging government this long is to ensure that necessary equipment, necessary infrastructural facilities, including those that will facilitate e-learning, virtual learning, etc., are provided in public universities in Nigeria. Since this strike has been suspended conditionally, I can assure you that our members all over the country are ready to go back to classroom as soon as respective universities declare such universities open. But let us even leave the question of strike alone. Let us talk about how prepared our universities are to cope with learning in a pandemic of this nature. You hear government giving several billions of naira to aviation industry, some other industries, to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic and ensure that things go back to normal in those sectors. The critical question to raise is how prepared and what manner of intervention has government given to universities, especially public universities, in terms of being able to cope and prepare for, the resumption of students. So I think that as part of the processes towards finally resolving the crisis in the Nigerian university system is to draw government's attention to the need to improve facilities in public universities, so that whether it is in times of crisis or in terms of a pandemic like we have at the moment, learning can go on in our universities. So the throwback is to government to provide an enabling environment for us to do our job. But if you ask me, I can tell you that our colleagues are already at their duty posts. They are ready and willing, to engage our students once the gates of the universities are open.
I mean, I just want to piggyback on this was very wonderful thoughts there about online learning. I would have thought that if it was possible for ASUU to create UTAS, I mean, a very complex system of remunerations and all of that, which is a computer software, I would have thought that ASUU too should be looking in the works of how to put about a complex system of software, maybe by its members, to have uniformed or unified learning platforms that students can tap into. As you are probably speaking to me now, all you just need to do is to get on a call on this unified platform, and from there, students all over your class can put a code and enter and connect to you any part, and you can start teaching them as we speak now. I would have thought that it's something that ASUU wants to look at. And secondly, you try to shrug away my question about the unions, but the problem will come and stare at you at the face, sir, when you resume and when the promissory notes starts to manifest by the federal government, when you probably get the first or second tranche. What would you do when that time comes? Because that's a problem of ground. SANU is talking tough.
Well,
NATSU is talking tough. It was on the papers this morning.
Well, let me start with the first question. The way to frame it is, how willing is government ready to accept innovation from Nigerian universities? Ngige and the rest didn't believe that ASUU could deliver on UTAS. And if you want facilities in the universities, you pay for it. Technology costs money. I am here in my office in Unilag and talking to you in Ikoyi. It took a lot of effort, a lot of planning, a lot of commitment to get your crew here to connect with me, to do all of this that we're doing. It is the same thing we're talking when we talk about facilities in the universities. Yes, ASUU could develop the software, but how do you use them? How do you utilize it? If government is unwilling to get committed in terms of providing the necessary accoutrements. That's one. Number two, SANU is talking tough, NASU is talking tough. Yeah, I told you earlier, unions are free. They are entitled, they have the right to talk tough. But what we are saying is, go into negotiation with your employer and get what you desire from your employer, not from promises given to another union. And in any case, we were on strike for several months. And now that the strike has been suspended, we are willing and ready to go back to classroom. If the students come, we will teach them. And once that is done, let other unions, rather than what they are doing now, engage their employer and get the interest of their members resolved at that level.
Well, Doctor, so much to talk about, but not enough time. We want to thank you very much, Dr. Dele Ashiru, for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much indeed.